Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome to our Panchadasi. Do we have any questions, Claudio? Wow, Claudio, you are still showing Arlindo Moraes. You cannot change, no?
I try to go out and come back again.
Let me see here. That's very strange. Why is it happening? Okay. Now I have changed your name. Well, but he left.
Okay. Now I am Claudio.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have any questions? Hanging questions? Then we go directly into the text. We are on page 82, beginning the title Existence, Non-Existence, and Appearing Non-Existence. Okay. The conventional definition of Mithya found in Shankaracharya's Vivekachoodamani is sat-asat, vilakshanam, a category that is different from existence and non-existence. So we are all familiar about that. Well, we're talking about Mithya, which is something that is neither existent nor non-existent, okay? So it's different from existence and non-existence. It does kind of existence, but as an appearance, as we know. It's not real, nor it is unreal. That is another angle. So Mithya is that which is not real, and it's not unreal. As we know, it is apparently real. It is seeming existence. It's seeming reality. It's seemingly real. The snake in the rope does not come under the non-existence category because it is experienced. So now we are talking about the snake in the rope that does not come under the non-existence, the totally non-existent category. Why? Because it exists in the mind of the observer. And why we say that exists? It exists as a superimposition, as a projection, and it can be experienced. It causes a certain mental emotional reaction on the seer of the snake. So there is a certain existence there. There is a certain experience taking place. Okay, it's subjective. Okay, but it has a certain degree of existence. It's not a phenomenon that it does not exist. Okay, it does exist, but it is a subjective reality. It's a projection. It's a misapprehension of what things are that cause something to be projected. So the snake in the rope definitely does not come under the non-existence category because it is experienced and emotions even come from it. it doesn't belong to in the existence category. It does not really belong into that which is the isness, the reality, the existence, because when we further examine the snake, we discover that there is no snake. So it's not really, we cannot say that it's real or it does really exist, okay? It does not, it's not non-existent and it's not existent. It's when knowledge takes place, the snake disappears, and then we have the rope. Because duality rules the intellect, we believe that the world should fall in one category or the other. So we see things through the sense organs, duality, and then we either see or we do not see, and we do not really understand that certain things that we perceive, they are not really existent, okay? They are not really real, because the intellect is ruled by perception, and perception is the base of duality, the observer and the observed, and everything that's observed, we take it to be real, but it's not really the case, as we know. We believe that the world should fall in one category or the other, which makes Mithya difficult to understand. In the next two verses, Vidyaranya accepts the idea that Mithya exists and that Mithya might create a contradiction. So he invents a new category of non-existence. Okay, so now he's going to try to make our life a little bit more difficult, because we have accepted already that Mithya does exist as an appearance, as a superimposition. It appears as a projection, but it's not real. And now he's going to come back and say, no, it belongs altogether to another category. And he's not meaning to say the category of just an apparent reality. He's saying about something else that's going to unfold here. He says, Mithya is actually non-existent. He's not saying that Mithya is apparently existent. He says Mithya is actually non-existent, because what does not exist in the past or in the future cannot exist in the present. So we know that under further examination, that which appears to exist no longer exists. And before the person projects the snake on the rope, the snake was again non-existent. So now what's not there before and it will not be afterwards there due to discrimination or inquiry, what happens with that? Cannot exist, because what does not exist in the beginning and does not exist in the mid, in the end, cannot exist in the middle. That's the logic there, okay? Because something that exists, at all times. That is the definition of existence. So it's not really existent, Mithya, okay? Because it's not all the time present. It cannot even say that it exists in the present. Before the man saw the snake, the snake did not exist. After the man was pointed out that the snake was just a rope, it did not exist. The rope, the snake disappeared. And the man realized, yeah, the snake was never there, but I felt the snake. It was really alive. And I was paralyzed with fear. If it does not exist in the past or the future, how can it exist in the present? But how can a non-existent thing appear at all and cause such a reaction on the observer? So how can a non-existent thing appear and provoke such a strong reaction on the observer? That's the question here, okay? So does it not it does not really, definitely does not exist. So how can it create such an effect? Something does not exist, cannot cause an effect, but still it was causing an effect, right? The man was paralyzed with fear. And then he comes back and talks about the antlers of a black butterfly do not appear in the past, do not appear in the future, and do not appear in the present, because objectively speaking, we are talking about the existence or non-existence of objects, okay? Things that are and things that are not, and things that appear to be but are not. So the butterfly and the antlers of the butterfly was never there in the past, present, or future, okay? So a white elephant was never there in the past, will never be there in the future. We hope not, but anything is possible with Maya. And therefore, if so far it's never there in the past, in the future, and it cannot be in the present. So Vidyaranya then says, there are two types of non-existence. One is non-appearing non-existence, and the other is, and then he puts an example again, a rabbit's horn, for instance. And two, an appearing non-existence, which would be the snake in a rope. So he divides the non-existing things, two types of non-existing objects. One is a non-appearing. It does not exist and does not appear in any case, And the other is an appearing non-existence, like the snake in the rope. So far, so good? Maya is wondrous because it makes the impossible possible. Normally, a non-existent thing cannot appear, but Maya makes it appear. So we always go back to the metaphor of the snake in the rope, but the basis of this is Mithya as the universe, which appears and which is not real, which was not there before, will not be there in the future except in its potential seed formation, but appears to exist in between. So Maya is wondrous because it makes the impossible possible. Normally, a non-existent thing cannot appear, but Maya makes it appear. The universe appears, okay? And we know that the universe is not absolutely real for different reasons. Yeah? But let's go back to the analogies here. A dream elephant does not appear before or after the dream. So before the dream, there was no elephant, and then we dream with the elephant, and then we wake up to become the awaker, and then the elephant disappears. So it's actually non-existent, except in the middle when I dream about the elephant. Okay, so now the elephant was projected by my mind. In that state, it was existing, but before the projection and after the wake up, the elephant was no longer there. The world did not exist before Maya. Okay, Maya now is the macro dreamer. So we have the Vishwa that becomes the Taijasa, and as a Taijasa, it projects and it dreams. So now we go back to the macro. The world did not exist before Maya projects its dream, and it does not exist when Maya falls back into sleep, the night of Brahman, or the night of Maya. So how can the world be real in the middle? So it is non-existent existence, okay? It's non-existent existence, okay? So the world then is being defined as non-existent existence. Here is another argument. You cannot dissociate space from awareness, because space only exists if it's known to exist. So we have awareness or consciousness or existence, and then we have space that comes as the most subtle element. And then how can we separate space from existence or consciousness? Okay. Space only existence if it's known by consciousness. Okay, so it comes out of consciousness and it's known by consciousness, and as we know, consciousness is another name for awareness, Brahman. So space only exists because there is a knowing element that somehow knows that there is such a thing as space. Yeah? Space is a conceptual object. It's not tangibly perceived by our sense organs, but is perceived by the mind, by the intellect, because we know that for tangible things to appear, we need something which contains, which accommodates everything, okay? So we understand that there is space. Space, we can separate space from awareness if we understand that although everything resolves itself in consciousness, consciousness is not space, okay? So we can discriminate and disassociate space from awareness because we know that I know space and the space does not know me. Consciousness, which is the real knower, knows space, whereas space is only known but cannot know anything because it is an object, a very subtle but yet an object. Okay, it is inert energy. And consciousness is the knower. It cannot be known to awareness. Space cannot be known to exist if awareness is absent. So awareness, consciousness must be present for space to be known to exist. Awareness is always ever present. Okay, it's existence. But let's go back here. Before he said that there are two types of non-existence. One is non-appearing non-existence. Okay, so is the world a non-appearing non-existence? So is that what Vidyaranya has come to a conclusion? No. Why? Because it appears the same way that the elephant in the dream appears. So he was defined two kinds of non-existence. One is that does not show, it's non-appearing, and the other is appearing. And we are concerned about the one that appears, because the ones that are not appearing do not we have no relevance to us. We want to distinguish something that appears to be real, but it's just an appearance, of something that is the absolute reality. So we try to establish what is reality, because we know that our nature is sat, that which exists as reality. So am I the space? Am I the pranas, the energies? Am I the intellect, the mind, the emotions? So these things appear. They are not non-appearing non-existence. They are appearing non-existence. Yeah? And I need to make this distinction so that I don't confuse myself with anything that appears as a superimposition on my consciousness. Yeah? So I have to distinguish it. Therefore, there was the analogy bringing back space, bringing back space to say space and consciousness, knowledge must be distinguished the same way. So we should never allow anything that is imposed on us to become us, let's say, or we should never allow this confusion to take place, because we don't want to identify with phenomenon, because phenomenon is not always ever present. And we want to establish our identity with that which is always ever present. The light that which reveals, illumines and reveals the world of phenomena, of appearing, of appearing non-existence, appearing existing objects which are mere appearance. So far, so good? Okay. And then Vidyaranya brings in another concept about unconscious discrimination, which is very cool. It says, I mean, before, let's see what the objector is going to say to provoke that topic. He said, how is this possible? How is this possible? You are actually asking us to appreciate two as one, space, consciousness, and space as consciousness. You are trying to say that duality is in truth oneness or non-duality. So that was the take of the objector. And then Vidyaranya says, you do it all the time. And here are a few examples. He said, when you use words green glass, so we are talking about duality there. We are talking about a glass with a certain property called green color, right? So there is a glass and there is some attribute or color to the glass, green. So when we use green glass, you are actually separating the property from the substrate, from the substance, even though you physically see only one object. So now there is duality there, which is the glass and the property of color to the glass, okay? But we experience one single non-dual object, which is a green glass. But yet we say a green glass, that is the glass, the substance, the substrate, and then there is the color, which is a property of the glass. And then he says, we unconsciously, we are distinguishing the color from its substance. We know that it is a glass, but we know that the glass is mixed up with a property that belongs to the glass, okay, which is color, but it's not independent of the glass, okay. But it is there. But we are separating the substance from the property. Although we physically see only one object, since you unconsciously do it on a daily basis, it can also be consciously done with every object. For example, when you say that the computer made a mistake, you unconsciously saying that that you made a mistake, but you put it in the computer. Yeah? Basically, this is something that James brought in. He was very much into computer and he developed some skills with computer, and sometimes he would go crazy because the computer was making mistakes and he was mad with computer, and he was projecting on the computer. And then when you say that computer is going crazy, it's doing crazy things today, you unconsciously know that you made a mistake, not the computer, because you know that computer is not a sentient being. So there are a lot of these circumstances in which we know that there is no truth. We know that I am alone here, operate this machine, but somehow I project it in a way, So there are these basic substance and then the properties, and then we see things and we say the blue sky, this blue sky. Unconsciously we are discriminating, and we know that the sky is not blue, but for the sake of speech, we say, yes, the blue sky today is lovely, it's beautiful, it was so blue. But inside we know that the sky is colorless. In several other examples. When you say that computers, etc., whenever you see, and then a second point here, a second example, when you see a single object, you also appreciate the class to which it belongs. This is another angle, okay? We teach individuals not as individuals, but as consciousness, So you see individuals. When we see individuals as individuals, we are seeing consciousness broken into numberless pieces of parts or individuals, okay? So there is something which is a class of an object, and then there is a variety of different species or types of the same object. That's the point here. So we have consciousness, we have the eternal Jiva, let's say, and then we have numberless Jivas appearing. So we teach individuals not as individuals, but as awareness. It was a parenthesis that was put in there. Vedanta address individuals as consciousness, as awareness, not as individuals, okay? Because every individual belongs to one single class, which is consciousness. That's the point here. When you see a trout, for example, or you see a salmon, you will look into different class of fish. So when you see a trout, when you see a salmon, you know that they are both fish. So existence and space are known to be different, even though they cannot be physically separated. So the point being here is like, can you separate the trout from the fish? Can you separate the salmon from the fish? The fish is the fundamental nature of that object, and then the trout is a property. In this case, it is a class to which that kind of object belongs. Okay, so we have different class of object, we have different phenomena on which we see the object and we see certain properties, and unconsciously we separate them, we discriminate them. We are going through all this exercise so that we develop an unconscious, natural, automatic way or vasana that discriminate names and forms from consciousness, and then so that we say, oh yes, it's beautiful, it's green, it's big, it's small, it's large, it's lovely. But then unconscious, we know it's all consciousness. This is the bottom line here. Unconscious discrimination. Did we lose Claudio? No. Now, to physically separate the Jiva Atma and the body is murder. So again, we are trying to separate the fish from the salmon, and now we're going to try to separate the body from the Jiva Atma, or the Jiva Atma from consciousness. Now, how to separate Jiva from consciousness? So when we try, if we physically try to separate Jiva Atma from the body, it is going to kill the poor Jiva. But we unconsciously must understand that distinction. You understand? One distinction is the Jiva Atma, which is project on Paramatma. Okay, there is Paramatma, the absolute Atma, and then there is a Jiva Atma, which is just a superimposition. Okay, it's just one aspect of many other of many other sentient objects, because we talk about the Jiva Atma, we are referring to the human Jiva, of course. So there are infinite numbers of other insects and other living creatures. And so all of these different Jivas, we know that they are all Jivas. So they are different class of the same Jiva. When we say, oh, a Jiva tree, okay. So I understand the difference between being a Jiva and being a tree. A tree is a property of a certain Jiva. A Jiva is an object, a sentient object with three bodies. And then some of them become an insect, some of them become a tree, some of them become a cat, and some of them become human beings. So physically separating the Jiva Atma from the body is murder. but we unconsciously must understand that they are separate, okay? Meaning to say that they are not the same. Better to say they are not the same. We need to discriminate. We cannot separate the Jiva Atma from consciousness. We cannot separate the Jiva Atma from its body because it would be killing the Jiva Atma. We cannot separate the Jiva Atma from consciousness because even separated from consciousness is going to kill the Jiva Atma because consciousness is what is infusing the Jiva Atma with life, and keeping, sustaining, maintaining, protecting it. So unconsciously, we must do this discrimination and understand, the fundamental nature, the essential nature of anything and everything as consciousness. Although we see the Jiva Atma, we see the subtle body of the Jiva Atma, we see the physical body of the Jiva Atma, we see the whole shebang, and still we know that unconsciously all is but consciousness, okay? So that's the point here. A person who says, I am doing good karma to get to heaven, knows that the body is not going to heaven. I love this one. So there are some others on this line as well. But this is very good. So no, I'm trusting the Lord that I'm going to go to heaven. That is another twist to this one, that I'm going to go to heaven. So we all would like to go to heaven. But when we say, no, I'm confident that I did well and I'm going to go to heaven. So there is a very fundamental discrimination there, unconscious discrimination. Why? Because we know that the body is not going to go anywhere. The body is going to be burned. The body is going to go down. When we say, I'm going to heaven, I am unconsciously discriminating my soul, my subtle body, from the physical body. And I'm trying to say, no, my subtle body or my soul is going to enjoy some punya in some locker. So I go to heaven, but right there we know that the body does not go anywhere. The body does not go to heaven. A person who says, I'm doing good karma to get to heaven, knows that the body is not going to heaven. No, it's the same example. I was not sure that Vidyaranya was going to mention about the body not going to heaven, but it's the same example. In the same way, understand the difference between existence and space. So there is a difference between consciousness and space. They appear as one, but we must know that they are not the same. Okay? They are not the same. One thing is consciousness, and another thing is a property that comes out of consciousness in association with Maya, which is space, the most fundamental element accommodating the entire body of the universe. We must understand that they are not the same, although it appears to be the same. They appear to be one, but we must know that consciousness is not space. If you make this discrimination on a basic moment-to-moment experience, we are free if we do so. We are free. Why we are free? Because we again and again remember that I am the nature of Sat-Chit, Ananta. I am consciousness, although again and again I talk, I act, and I move around as if I am the experience knowing entity. Unconsciously, I have this discrimination very much settled in my causal body, that, the same way that I know that sky is not blue, that the glass is not green, and many other instances, we are just, we have no problem with words. We have no problem with ignorance being expressed through words if we have this unconscious discrimination taking care of things for us. Do you understand? Freedom is just unconscious discrimination. I mean, really, freedom, the last sentence here, freedom is just unconscious discrimination. So unconscious, I'm adding a word there, unconscious. Why? Because if I have to be conscious discriminating all the time, so I would say it's a pain in the neck. Huh? I have to be forcing all the time. Oh, I'm happy. You know, it has to come to a point in which it is natural, because what? You have developed a huge vasana that take care of the work for you. You understand? It's being done there unconsciously. That's what I mean by saying that the self-knowledge, which is based on this subtle discrimination, needs to grow roots in the causal body so that it can become natural. And then the objector is going to say something here. I understand clearly as it is explained by you, but I cannot seem to apply it at other times. Why? Because it's not yet unconsciously working for you. Huh? I have to be vigilant. I need to keep doing my work, no? Because I'm still, building, cultivating, building such a Mithya discriminating vasana so that it can unconsciously do the job. I understand clearly, but I can't seem to apply it at other times. I'm not able to derive the benefit of this wisdom. What should I do? I got this self-knowledge, but I'm not enjoying the fruits of this self-knowledge. Yeah? Here it said, but it's not firm. In other words, I mean, I know, but I'm not really enjoying the fruits of self-knowledge somehow. Yeah? And he's trying to ask help. This objector is not just an academic, philosophical, but he's really say so very opening his situation. Say, what should I do? Help me out. I have this knowledge, but somehow it does not fructify. And then here it says that firm knowledge is knowledge that is permanently rooted in the causal body. It's a knowledge that has gone into the causal body and gradually has replaced ignorance, which was sitting in the causal body. When there is too much ignorance sitting in the causal body, we have some knowledge there, and then we have some ignorance there, and those two, still are fighting. And sometimes ignorance wins a battle, and then when you see ignorance is popping up in your mind and preventing us from enjoying the fruits of self-knowledge. From knowledge is knowledge that is permanently rooted. It takes roots in the causal body, and gradually, it's going to take over, and all the seeds of ignorance are going to be destroyed. It's very interesting, Marco, because now that I'm playing with seeds and soil and seeing this little thing sprouting, and I know that in certain soils, there are weeds, there are other seeds that are somehow fighting for survival and trying to rob energy from the other seeds and so on. So the good seeds of knowledge has to grow, and gradually it kills the other seeds, the seeds of ignorance. Isn't it, Lynn? You have your garden, right?
One can hope. So basically, after knowledge, then ignorance is really a habit of thought and identity.
Well said.
And is that so? So that nididhyasana we were just talking about is just
Yeah,
constantly making that discrimination
yeah,
until it just drips into that causal.
yeah.
Yeah,
Until this self-knowledge becomes effortless.
yes,
In the beginning, it takes effort.
yeah,
Takes discrimination and vigilance and watchfulness and so on. Because, as I said, there are samskaras, there are vasanas there which are still bad seeds. Seeds, they are founded, they are based on ignorance, in regards to our true nature, in the nature of reality as consciousness, and vasanas about the knowledge in regards to Ishvara as well, So all this spiritual knowledge needs to be cultivated so that it creates these seeds in the causal body that somehow it again and again it pops in our mind and pacifying potential disturbance, and problems and so on. Right? So it's a knowledge, it is there, as you said, but there are old habits, which is hardwired, old vasanas, right? Vasanas that we carried from lifetimes, because the whole universe is moved, operate, governed by bad vasanas, ignorant vasanas. So everywhere, everybody, we ourselves from lifetimes, and then it's somehow there are some of these vasanas that gives us more trouble, some gives less trouble, but gradually they will go, to the extent that these good new vasanas, they become beautiful samskaras, and then they take over the soil. Firm knowledge is permanently rooted in the causal body. There are two reasons why self-knowledge may not be firm. And there are two solutions to make it firm. So we know that the Rajasic mind is one of the problems. So when we have a lot of vasanas, which are Rajasic, it's going to be there doing what? What Raja does? It extroverts the mind. When the mind is extrovert, it's unavoidably, invariably, it is somehow projecting value on objects of Mithya. You understand it? Oh, yes, but how nice, how wonderful! I go and get it. You understand? So a Rajasic mind is not really going to hold because of this habit of extroverting, projecting value on Mithya, objects of Mithya, apparent objects, right? In a Rajasic mind, it has a hard time to hold the knowledge, because as we know, it lacks a certain degree of focus. It picks up a little bit of the knowledge, and then it has a nice ha-ha, click, and then the mind jumps to something else. And then when you see, you start digesting fragments of self-knowledge, bits and pieces, and you never develop a clear vision, you understand, of the non-dual self-consciousness as the only reality, and all these things being, projected, superimposed on us, me. So a Rajasic mind is going to, due to its lack of one-pointedness, focus, it's going to assimilate bits and pieces of the teachings, in a happenstance way, and the complete vision of a non-duality will not set the inquirer free. So It's very common, you have a lot of people who have a small bits and pieces, but the mind is still shattered, it has many other interests. And then you get a little piece of the puzzle, so to speak, but still your mind is distracted with many other things. Therefore, the individual does not feel like this guy, the inquirer. So my knowledge is not firm. Of course, it's not firm. So if the mind is rajasic, it's still extroverted towards Mithya, the object, and projecting. An unstead mind is corrected by Karma Yoga, and then the solution. So the mind that is rajasic, it can be corrected by Karma Yoga and a Dharma conforming lifestyle and continuous contemplation on the teachings. So we are there talking about karma, dharma, and then Vedanta, nididhyasana, Shravana, Manana, followed by nididhyasana. So what is the remedy? Vedanta. Okay, so if it's too rajasic, let's go back to karma dharma. Observing dharma, you understood the teachings, the logic, the rationale of karma dharma. You know you need to align, conform, harmonize your life with these dharmic laws of cosmic laws of the universe. Otherwise, you're going to be in conflict with the environment. Experiencing conflict makes the mind to be disturbed, and a disturbed mind cannot really assimilate. So, and then we go back to understand a living way, which is in conformation with Dharma. And then I understand Karma Yoga. And then again, I'm going to become a Karma Yogi, which is mostly to integrate God in the equation of my life, the Creator. And then I see the Creator. And then the creation is there as the Dharma field, and I am the creature, and I have to bring the Dharma field with its laws and the Creator into the equation and live in harmony with the laws of the Creator so that I can develop a more sattvic mind. Why? Why it's going to do it? Because a rajasic mind is projecting. I will be happy if I need this, then if I get that, it's going to be doing that. And then the knowledge of Karma Yoga is going to facilitate the individual to understand that nothing really is in your hands, that you have to, what is in your hands is your effort to understand and grow spiritually. But in terms of wanting things your way, nothing is in your hands. And in fact, anyone who wants things one's way is going to suffer, because Ishwara is going to again and again point out by example that you can't really get what you want. Okay? Because I am the karma pala data, the one who gives. Your prarabdha karma, whether you want it or not. I am the law, I am the system. So the individual understand this karmic cause and effect law, and then start relaxing and this tendency of wanting to control its experience, relax, and then the mind begins, suffering less, desires and frustrations and fears and conflicts, and then the teachings can be better assimilated. So we go back to karma, dharma, and then shravana, manana, nididhyasana, contemplating the teachings. Even if you have a strong desire to be free, and you are convinced that Vedanta can set you free, a sattvic mind is required. So it is a good point as well. It's difficult to find a rajasic person with a burning desire, strong, intense desire. But here it said, if by any chance that could be possible, if you find someone who is rajasic or even tamasic, but have a strong desire, no? The person is not going to be able to gain this knowledge. Why? Because those tamas needs to be converted into rajas so that rajas can be converted into sattva, sattva guna, so that the individual have the proper mindset to assimilate this self-knowledge. Therefore, if you have a strong desire to be free and you have seen the beauty of Vedanta, and you believe that Vedanta is the best means, still you need a sattvic mind in order to succeed. Simple. And then the other cause, why I don't have a firm knowledge. The other one is a tamasic mind. Self-knowledge will not become firm if the mind is predominantly tamasic. So a tamasic mind is the worst possible mental condition for any jiva, any human being. Human being comes into the spiritual world and it gets all excited. And sometimes they even come and knock at the door of Vedanta and say, hey, I heard that this is the direct path, Aham Brahmasmi and so on, and can you help me? And it's not going to work. A tamasic person needs to convert that block, that solid block of tamas into rajas in order to provide itself with enough energy to grow. We don't think in those terms, but anything in life takes energy, and spiritual growth takes enormous amount of energy, and tamasic people usually lacks energy. Okay, so we need to come out of that tamaguna condition. So if you are tamasic, you are being on denial. Maybe there is an example here. A tamasic person believes that the way you see yourself in life is superior to the way the scripture sees it. So a tamasic person may be more propense to denial. Denial is something on the lines of tamas, It's not really accepting and taking responsibility. And I say, no, this does not work, So I have my own way. I'm free already. I enjoy my TV and I enjoy my potato chips and all the junk food I eat before the TV. I enjoy my beer and 2 liters of Coca-Cola daily. So a tamasic person is going to die saying, no, I'm so happy. It's called denial. So no, my life is good and I don't need scripture, I don't need anything. Sometimes the best solution is to keep trying to make life work according to one's idea, and then return to Vedanta once we are sufficiently humbled. This is interesting. I talk about humbleness. A person is I say, what is the other synonymous of humbleness? Is I often use the other word, humility. The person is a rajasic person can be very much unhumble. Can we say unhumble, not humble? He does not have it because the rajasic still believes that he can do things, by himself or by herself, going in and try to do things alone and so on. And then there is the tamasic person who as well can be in such a denial that is not humble enough to see that he needs help. But Vedanta is not a help for a tamasic person to begin with. And I know because some tamasic people come to me, and after some time it became clear to me that Vedanta cannot help them. They need to go and do some other thing. They need to move and exercise and so on. So nothing, life is a school, nothing teaches more than the sufferings of life, I would say. We need to suffer until we develop certain basic qualifications and humility, humbleness, and trust in the scriptures being the very basic ones. But assuming you appreciate the value of Vedanta and you are still not convinced, you must seriously start the scripture. So you're not very convinced. This is another example, someone who appreciates the value of Vedanta, but not really convinced, and then you must stick to the studies of the scripture with the help of a teacher, because there is something there in you that sees the value on the Upanishads, the scripture knowledge. There are many advanced texts from Brahma Sutra's own work available. These texts establish Vedanta logically and systematically. Every doubt has been addressed and worked out. When I read this one, I said, "Ooh, maybe we should get into some Brahma Sutras in the future." I haven't done a Brahma Sutra yet. If you don't have doubt about the teaching, you need not go through all the texts, but you need to keep a sattvic mind and expose it consistently to the teaching until this discrimination becomes your second nature. Very nice, your second nature. It goes into automatic, becomes subconscious. So this constant discrimination, I know that I am free and independent from my experiences. This is present there as one's second nature. Subconsciously, this knowledge is there. So in case you do not have doubt, but your knowledge is not yet fully fructifying, you don't have doubt about the teachings, okay? Don't worry, you don't need to study all the texts. All you need is to keep working on your nididhyasana and cultivating a sattvic mind until this discrimination becomes your second nature. When the discriminating samskara is well entrenched in your mind, the knowledge will never leave you. Very nice. When this discriminating, such a Mithya discrimination, vasana becomes samskaras, and then they are hardwired in your causal body, the knowledge becomes firm. Furthermore, when you know the object of knowledge is you, so I'm looking to gain a certain knowledge. And what is the object of knowledge? My very nature. So furthermore, once you understand that the object of knowledge is your very nature, so you will never really be anxious, because you are there, always ever present, trying to get the knowledge about yourself, okay? So all you need to know is that I am always present. I am what I am searching and seeking and trying to know. So how can I know the knower is a mystery, okay? But yet the Upanishads are there to explain you. You want to know yourself, Sat-chit Ananda, is your nature. And then, of course, the individual must understand that one's conscious existence is always present. Okay, so far so good. My conscious existence is always present, and most people in Vedanta know that. And then we need to understand the third aspect of Brahman. My conscious existence is of the nature of Ananda, limitlessness, one without a second. And that's what resolves the problem, okay? I am that which is always present, and I am the nature of Ananda, limitlessness. So therefore, you cannot be forgotten because you are always ever present, and you are Purna. Meditation will not produce an experience that will prove non-duality and validate this knowledge. You don't need an experience to prove that you are a human being. So why do you think that an experience will prove that you are consciousness? So nice, huh? So no, I need, no, I have been with Vedanta now, and now I need to practice Vedanta. I need an epiphany. I need a nice, mystical, spiritual experience to validate this knowledge. Huh? So I need to have this validation through, a direct experience. Huh? And then I will know that I am of the nature of Ananta, non-dual consciousness. No? And then here Vidyaranya says, why so? You do not need an experience to prove that you are a human being. Just imagine if we every day would need that experience. No, it is a firm knowledge. It's a hardwired, natural knowledge. We go about moving through the day, and we never got confused with the other creatures. We know that, no, I am a human being, I'm a satisfied human being. I'm not my cat, I'm not my dog. So we don't need any experience every day to remind ourselves that I am a human being. So why you believe that you need an experience to remind you that you are consciousness? Isn't it interesting, Claudio? Very much so, huh? So consciousness is self-luminous, self-evident, self-obvious, is always ever present, shining in the subtle body, producing the intellectual knowing, experiencing entity called the jiva. Nothing stands without this consciousness, so therefore consciousness is always ever present there, even through deep sleep. So every experience is experience of consciousness plus a certain mental state, mental condition of the subtle body. So what more we need to prove that I am of the nature of consciousness? But we leave this discussion or these teachings for next week, beginning from 74. Verse 74 next week, Ishvara willing. And anything, Claudio, Mark, any questions, any complaints?
No, only to say that it was very clarifying for this, what we read today, but was very interesting. It clarifies me a lot of things that I had.
Good, nice. Yeah, that's the idea. The idea. We keep doing, and then the lights go on here and there, and then we begin getting clarity about what we are. Okay.
Yeah, very, very nice, Lindo. Thank you. It's almost as if being a human, a large part of being a human is just experience. And this is like an inbuilt tendency within all humans to want to experience. So even though we don't have to validate the consciousness that we are, we want to have the experience of the validation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, this is Maya. Yeah, trying to compel the jiva to go into an impossible mission. How can I experience myself except as the subject, conscious, witnessing principle? How can I, the knower, be reduced to an object of knowledge? It is impossible, because if I'm reduced to an object of knowledge, which most people do, until we come to Vedanta, we are searching for consciousness. We heard we are consciousness, but still we fall for this duality, and we put outside ourselves, something other than our self-consciousness, and I want to experience this consciousness. But you cannot experience consciousness objectively, but as one's very nature, as the only knower, the true knower, the absolute knower. So we always experience consciousness, but not as an object, right? And that resolves the problem. So if anybody coming from the yoga, with this huge vasana for experience, I know that it's not the case of Mark, because Mark has already developed a huge vasana for knowledge and discrimination, but still some residual tendency to want
definitely, yeah,
to experience consciousness. So it solves it somehow, it resolves the mind to know that we experience consciousness at all times. But as a knower. Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purname Bhavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. See you next Thursday with the new text, isn't it, Lynn? Oh, I have to open that book again and read a little bit. I need to do some prep work here. Namaste.
Thank you.
thanks, Arlindo. Bye now.
Thank you.